My name is Noah Walker. If you're listening to this story, you might think I'm lying. Honestly, if it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe it either. I lived in Denver, Colorado, USA, and was a travel blogger. My job was to make videos of different cities, towns, and mysterious places. I had seen hundreds of places, but what I found in October of 2024 changed my entire life. It all started on a normal weekend. I went to a small town called Red Creek. Every year, there was an old flea market there where people would sell antiques, books, pictures, and maps. I just went to make a video. I had no idea that I would walk out with something that probably shouldn't exist in the world. It was raining. The sky was full of dark clouds, and there weren't many people at the market. I was wandering around the stalls when I saw an old man stall. He must have been about 70 years old. White beard, old coat. And the strange thing was that everything on his stall looked very old, as if it had been taken out of a museum. I was looking at the pictures when I saw a rolled-up map. Its edges had turned yellow. The paper was rotten. I opened it and stopped there. In the middle of the map was the name of a town, Ash Hollow. I had never heard of this name. I was quite interested in maps of America. I had traveled to many states, but this name was completely new to me. Where is this? I asked the old man. He looked at me, then at the map, and his face changed color. You shouldn't buy this. I laughed. Why? Is there a treasure hidden there? The old man didn't answer. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Some things are better left forgotten." What he said was strange. I looked at the map again. It was an old map from 1974. The date was written on the corner of the paper. But the surprising thing was that I knew the names of all the other towns. Only a place called Ash Hollow seemed to be from some other world. "I'll take this," I said. The old man shook his head immediately. "No." "What do you mean?" "I don't want to sell, but it's for sale." The old man stared at me for a while. Then, as if he had made a decision, he rolled up the map and handed it to me. "If you're taking it, remember one thing." "What?" he said softly. "If you find the way, then come back before sunset." A strange chill ran through my body. I tried to laugh. "Don't worry." But he didn't laugh. Not at all. That night, I returned to the hotel. It was raining steadily. I spread the map out on the table. Now I was looking at it carefully. Then my eyes fell on something strange. There was something written on the back of the map. In red ink. It looked as if someone had written it in a hurry. Just one sentence. "If you find a way, don't spend the night." My forehead creased. Now, this was getting interesting. I immediately opened my laptop. Googled Ash Hollow. Results? Nothing. I tried different spellings. Nothing. Looked at government records. Nothing. Looked at old American maps. Nothing. As if such a town never existed. But then the question was, what was this map of? At about 2 a.m., I was still doing research. Then I found an old website. It was an archive of a local history forum. There was a post. Date: 2009. Title: Has anyone heard of Ash Hollow? My heart pounded. I opened the post. Inside was just a message. My grandfather used to say that this town was in the woods of Montana. If anyone knows of this place, please get in touch. There was only one answer at the bottom of the post. One answer. Just one. And that answer took my breath away. It said, "If you've heard the name, don't search." The next day, I made up my mind. I was going to find this place. This could have been the best video of my life. Or, at least an interesting study. I started comparing the map with a modern GPS map. After several hours, I found a strange match. An old river branch shown on the map still exists today. If the calculations were correct, Ash Hollow should be somewhere deep in the dense forests of Montana. I immediately set off. 2 days later, Montana. I was driving on a lonely highway. The forest was all around. The sun was setting. Then suddenly the GPS lost signal. The screen went blank. "Great," I muttered. But then my eyes caught sight of it, and I immediately slammed on the brakes and stopped. There was an old signboard standing on the side of the road. Rusty, half-broken, hidden in the trees. It looked as if no one had seen it for decades. I got out of the car. I walked closer. and brushed the moss off the board. The text below slowly began to appear. My hands began to tremble, because there were only 2 words written on it. Ash Hollow. My breath caught. This name really existed. This was no joke. This was no old story. This was reality. Reality stood before me. Behind the sign, a narrow, broken road led deep into the forest. And the strangest thing? The road did not appear on any modern map. Not at all. As if someone had erased him from the world. I looked up at the sky. The sun was almost setting. Then I suddenly remembered the old man. If you find a way, then come back before sunset. For a moment, fear crept into my heart. But then I explained myself. I was a researcher, not one to be afraid. I got in the car, turned on the camera, and turned the car onto this mysterious road. I had no idea that in the next hour I was going to see something that was beyond human understanding. And what was even scarier was, as my car entered the forest, the signboard in my rearview mirror slowly began to fade. And a few seconds later, it disappeared completely. When I looked in the rearview mirror again, the signboard had indeed disappeared. I immediately braked. I stopped the car. I got out and looked back. The road was there. The forest was there. But the signboard wasn't there. The signboard I had just passed a few seconds ago. A strange unease arose in my body. I told myself that maybe it was because of the trees that I couldn't see. But my heart wasn't ready to believe it. Finally, I got back in the car and started driving. The forest was unusually quiet. No birds. No animals. Just the faint sound of the wind. And trees. Trees with trunks so thick that they seemed to have stood there for centuries. After about 45 minutes, I caught a glimpse of some buildings ahead. My heart started beating fast. Was this really Ash Hollow? I slowed down. After a few moments, the trees began to part, and an entire town appeared before me. I remained silent. It really was a town. Houses, shops, churches, gas stations, everything. But the strange thing was that this town didn't look like a modern American town. Rather, it felt like I had suddenly gone back 40 or 50 years. All the cars parked on the side of the road were from the 1970s and 1980s. There were no new cars anywhere. The shop signs were old-fashioned. Even the people's clothes were different from modern times. I slowly drove down Main Street. A few people were walking down the street. As soon as they saw my car, they stopped and started staring at me, as if they had seen a ghost. I rolled down the window. A man passed by. "Excuse me, is this Ash Hollow?" He stopped. He stared at me for a moment. Then, without saying anything, he quickly moved on. I was surprised. A small cafe appeared in the middle of the town. I stopped there. As soon as I entered, the whole atmosphere fell silent. About 10 or 12 people were sitting inside. Everyone looked at me at once. And then silence fell. My footsteps stopped. It seemed as if I had come to the wrong place. A middle-aged woman was standing behind the counter. I went up to her. "Hello." She nodded slowly. "I'm from outside." A strange expression appeared on the woman's face. "I know." I was shocked to hear her answer. "How do you know?" "Because no one comes here from outside." Saying this, she fell silent. I ordered a coffee and sat down at a table. Now I was watching people carefully. Everything was strange. Very strange. Then my eyes went to the clock on the wall. The time was 6:17 p.m. I took out my mobile. The time on my phone was 7:43 p.m. I thought maybe the clock was broken. But then my eyes went to another clock in the other corner of the cafe. It was also 6:17. Then a third clock. On that too. My heart started pounding. I immediately went out. I saw the clock on the shop in front. 6:17. I saw the clock on the petrol station. 6:17. I saw the clock on the church tower. 6:17. All the clocks were showing the same time. Exactly the same time. As if the whole town had frozen in a single moment. That's when my eyes fell on an old woman. She was standing on the other side of the street, looking at me. She was probably about 80 years old. White hair, a wrinkled face, and a strange fear in her eyes. She gestured with her hand, as if calling me to her. I walked towards her. She immediately turned into an alley. I followed her. When we were out of sight, she grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Why did you come here?" she asked in a whisper. No. She almost screamed. "You shouldn't have come here." A shiver ran through my body. I had heard this phrase before. From the old man selling maps. "What is this place?" I asked. Tears welled up in the old woman's eyes. "This place is a prison." Prison. Prison in time. I couldn't understand anything. She said in a trembling voice, "When the sun sets, you'll see too." "What will I see?" She immediately turned her head and looked at the sky. Fear spread across her face. "Run." "What?" "Run now." I looked up at the sky in surprise, and my breath caught. Only a few minutes ago the sun was about to set, but now the sun stood perfectly still in its place. It was neither going up nor down, as if time had stopped. The entire sky was frozen in orange. I met my eyes. I looked again. The scene was the same. Then suddenly a siren started ringing in the town. Ugh. The sound echoed throughout the area, as if an emergency had been announced. I looked around in shock. The people of the town started running. Everyone was running towards their homes. Shopkeepers were pulling down their shutters. Doors were closing. Curtains were being put up on the windows. In just a few minutes, the entire street was empty. "What are these people doing?" I asked the old woman. Her face had turned white. "They are coming." "Who?" She didn't answer. Suddenly, I realized that there was a sound coming from the direction of the forest, from a great distance, as if dozens of people were whispering together. I listened. The sound was slowly getting closer, and getting louder with each passing second. The old woman started to back away. "I'm leaving." "Wait, tell me what's going on," she said tremblingly. "If you hear someone knocking on the door after dark." My heart pounded. "Then don't answer." Saying this, she ran away. I was left alone on the road. The whole town was empty. Every door was closed. Every window was closed. And the whisperings coming from the forest were now closer than ever. Then, I saw them for the first time. At the edge of the forest, tall black shadows stood among the trees. Human shapes, but not human. Very tall, very thin, and they were all looking at me at the same time. I froze in fear, because one of them slowly raised its hand and motioned to me to come towards it. Those dark creatures standing at the edge of the forest were staring at me. I was standing in the middle of the road. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating so fast that I could hear my own breathing. There must have been more than 20 of these shadowy beings. They stood silently among the trees. They were neither moving nor speaking. They were just looking at me, and then one of them slowly extended his hand towards me, as if he wanted to call me to him. A wave of fear ran through my whole body. I stepped back. Just then, the door of a house suddenly opened. "Come in," I heard a man whisper. I turned around. A middle-aged man was standing in the doorway. He immediately said again, "Quick." I ran inside his house. The door slammed shut behind me. It was dark inside. Only an old lamp was burning. The man pulled the window curtain tightly shut and turned to me. "Are you crazy?" he asked angrily. "Why were you standing outside?" I was still trying to catch my breath. "What were those things?" The man's face flushed. "Keep your voice down," he whispered. His name was Jacob Harper. He looked about 55 years old. There was a constant look of fear on his face, as if he had been living in a nightmare for many years. I asked again, "Who are those things?" Jacob fell silent. Then he slowly walked to the window. He peeked out from behind a corner of the curtain and immediately stepped back. "Those are people," he said. I was surprised. People? There were people once. The room fell silent. Then he motioned for me to sit down. "You're new here?" "Yes." "So you should know the truth." I listened carefully. Ash Hollow wasn't always like this, Jacob said. 50 years ago, it was a typical American town. Then something happened one night. What? He shook his head. No one knows. According to him, a strange event occurred in 1974. The entire town suddenly disappeared from the world. From government records, from maps, from documents, from everywhere. As if this place had never existed. But in reality, the town hadn't ended. He was stuck somewhere. Somewhere where time didn't run smoothly. And those shadows? I asked. Jacob's eyes were fixed on the floor. They're travelers. Travelers? The ones who come here. My heart raced. And then, can't go back. A chill ran through my body. You mean all those people were ever alive? Yes. And now they wander the woods after dark. Then, stop. We both jumped. The sound came from the front door. Stop. 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 My hands were sweating. Jacob's face turned white. Oh no, he whispered. There was another knock on the door. This time, louder. Knock. 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 Who is it? I asked. Silence. Jacob almost exploded. Never answer. We both sat in silence. The knocking continued. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15 minutes. Then it suddenly stopped. I breathed a sigh of relief. But Jacob was still scared. Are they gone? I asked. He shook his head. No. Then, they're just waiting. A shiver ran through my body. That's when my eyes fell on a picture on the wall. In the picture, Jacob was standing with his family. Wife, son, and a little daughter. But their faces were covered in ink. On purpose. Who are these? I asked. Jacob looked at the picture. His eyes watered. My family. Where are they? There was silence for a few moments. Then he said, outside. My heart stopped. What do you mean? They joined them too. I couldn't say anything. The night was getting darker. There was complete silence outside. So quiet that I began to feel afraid. Then suddenly, my phone screen lit up. I was shocked. There had been no signal on my phone since I entered here. Absolutely not. But now the screen lit up automatically. A new message arrived. Unknown number. I opened the message. There was only one sentence. Noah, don't look out the window. My blood froze. I had never told anyone my name. Not to Jacob. Not to anyone else in town. How is this possible? I muttered. Jacob immediately snatched the phone from my hand. I looked at the screen, and all the blood drained from his face. They've found you. Who? He didn't answer. Then, a whisper came from outside the window. Very softly. Very softly. Noah. My whole body shook. The voice came again. No, it wasn't a human voice. It was like several people talking at once. I looked helplessly at the window. No, Jacob shouted. But it was too late. I peeked out the corner of the curtain. And what I saw, it froze my soul. A shadow stood on the other side of the window. His face was completely black. But his eyes, they were my own eyes. And then he smiled. The being standing on the other side of the window was smiling. My breath hitched. I backed away. My knees were shaking. Because that face, it was my own face. My eyes, my nose, my height, even my hair. There was only one difference. His smile. It was unnatural. Much longer. Much scarier. As if it had been forcibly pulled across a human face. Close the curtain, Jacob shouted. I backed away immediately. Jacob closed the curtain completely. The room was silent again. But now my heart was beating faster than ever. What was that? I asked in a trembling voice. Jacob took a deep breath before answering. Then he said softly, Your copy. Copy. Yes. This is not a joke, Jacob. I wish this was a joke. He sat down in the chair. His hands were shaking too, as if he had seen this many times before. Ash Hollow does this to every newcomer. I remained silent. At first they just see you. Then they start to understand you. And then, Jacob looked into my eyes. Then they become you. A thrill ran through my body. This is impossible. I thought so too. It was almost 10 o'clock at night, at least according to my phone. But all the clocks in the town were still stopped at 6:17. Jacob handed me an old diary. Read this. The first page of the diary had the date written on it. November 12th, 1989. It was someone's personal diary. Name, Mark Stevens. I started reading. I arrived in Ash Hollow 3 days ago. The first day I felt strange. The second day I saw myself. On the third day, he started calling my name. My heart raced. I turned the next page. He wears clothes like me now. He speaks in my voice. Today I heard him talk about his memories. He knows my life. He is becoming me. I closed the book without thinking. Then what happened? I asked. Jacob fell silent. Look at the last page. I opened the last page of the diary. I only wrote one sentence. If anyone reads this, they should know that I am the real Mark, not an outsider. A chill ran down my spine. Suddenly, a voice came from upstairs. Stop. I was startled. Is there anyone else in your house? Jacob's face turned white.
No.
Then the voice came again. Stop. 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 Like someone was walking slowly. My hands were covered in sweat. What is this? Jacob didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the ceiling. Then suddenly, a child's laughter came from above. I was left speechless. It was the laughter of a little girl. But there was no one in the house. Jacob closed his eyes. She's back again.
Who?
His voice broke. My daughter. I understood. Or maybe I didn't want to understand. Then a voice came from above. Dad. The hairs on my body stood up. It was the voice of a real child. Dad opened the door. Tears welled up in Jacob's eyes. Don't listen. He was saying to himself, don't listen. But instead of stopping, the voice started getting closer, like someone was coming down the stairs. One step, then another, then a third. I looked at the door. The corridor outside the room was plunged into darkness. Then a small shadow appeared in the darkness. A little girl, about 8 years old, white dress, black hair, and empty eyes. Dead. She smiled. Jacob immediately looked down. This is not my daughter. He kept repeating, this is not my daughter. The girl slowly started moving towards us. Her movements were not human-like, like a video speed glitch. Sometimes slow, sometimes suddenly fast. Then suddenly all the lights in the house went off. The whole room was plunged into darkness. I was about to scream when Jacob grabbed my arm. Be quiet. There was complete silence in the whole house. Then a whisper was heard right next to my ear, so close that my breath stopped. Noah. I froze. It wasn't Jacob's voice. Noah. The voice came again. And this time I understood where she was coming from. He was standing behind me. I slowly turned my head, and in the darkness, I saw 2 eyes shining. My own eyes. My other form had reached the inside of the house. The darkness was so deep that I couldn't even see my own hand. But I knew he was standing behind me. My other form. The same face. The same body. The same me. It's just he wasn't me. I breathed slowly. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. There was silence behind me. A dangerous silence. Then suddenly, he whispered, Noah. I froze. It was my voice. Just like me. But there was something wrong with it. As if someone was remembering my voice and speaking, not understanding it. Who are you? I asked in a trembling voice. There was silence for a few seconds. Then he said, I am who you will be. My hands went cold. That's nonsense. There was a soft laugh. That's what you said at the beginning. Jacob's voice came from somewhere nearby. Noah, don't move. But it was too late now. Suddenly, a faint light came on in the room. An old table lamp turned on by itself. And I saw him. He was standing in front of me, exactly like me. My jacket, my face, my eyes. But there was no life in his eyes. Just an emptiness, like someone who had completely died inside. He smiled slowly. Now you understand. Understand what? I was backing away. He took a step forward. Ash Hollow doesn't let you kill. It changes you. I had only one thing going on in my mind.
Copy. Copy. Copy.
Jacob shouted. It will take your place. My other form bowed its head. No, I already took it. Suddenly my head started to hurt. Severe pain, like someone was pulling my memories. I grabbed my head. What is happening? He said softly. You can't stop me, Noah. I am every memory of you. Every thought. Scenes started to flash through my mind. My childhood. My home. My mother's voice. My friends. Everything started to blur. Jacob shouted. It is stealing your memories. I fell to my knees. My head was about to explode. Stop it. I screamed. My other form came closer and leaned in and whispered in my ear. When you completely forget, then I will become you. Suddenly the lights went out. Darkness. Silence. Just my breathing. Then Jacob grabbed my hand. Noah, get up. Now. I opened my eyes with difficulty. And then I saw what shook my soul. There were now two Noahs standing in front of me. One was me, and one was him. But now the difference was clear. My memories were fading. Things were blurring before my eyes. He smiled. Decide now. What decision? I barely spoke. Jacob shouted. This is the moment. Only one can survive. I shivered. What do you mean? My other form said. This town accepts only one person. Original or copy. A single thought came to my mind. This won't end. This is just the beginning. Suddenly the door slammed shut. The siren started to sound again from outside. Ugh. Jacob pulled my hand. If you're late, you'll both die. My other form stepped forward. No, he said softly. Only one will survive. Then he placed his hand on my chest. And there was a jolt. Electricity ran through my body. Every memory in my mind started to break together. I screamed, but no sound came out. And the last thing I saw was that Jacob wasn't looking at me. He was looking at my other form and slowly saying, Noah, run. Then everything went white. White light, or maybe darkness. I couldn't understand whether I was keeping my eyes open or closed. My head ached terribly, as if someone was scratching something inside my brain. Slowly the voices began to return. Sirens, wind, and then a voice. Noah, get up. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the ground. The ceiling of the room was blurry. Jacob was kneeling next to me. His face was worried. Are you okay? I tried to get up. My hands were shaking. Where is he? Jacob didn't say anything. He just kept looking at me. There was no one else in the room. My other form was missing. But I couldn't find peace, because I was feeling strange inside, like I was not whole. I gently held my head. And then the first strange thing happened. I couldn't remember a thing. I immediately tried to stop myself. No, that's impossible. But that memory wouldn't come back. Jacob said softly, It's already started. I looked at him. What's already started? He took a deep breath. You're losing yourself. My heart sank. What do you mean? Jacob pointed to the window. What you saw doesn't just take shape. It eats your memories. I fell silent. A fog was gathering in my mind. Who am I? I asked myself. But the answer was slowly weakening. Jacob looked at me. Now you have to remember yourself. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door from outside. Knock. I was immediately startled. Jacob's face hardened. He's back. Who? I asked. But there was already a fear inside me. The knock happened again. This time more slowly. Knock, knock. And then a voice came. Noah. I froze. It was my voice. But there was something different about it. More mature. More cold. Jacob whispered. Don't answer him. But then from outside the door he said, I am you. My head ached. Another memory disappeared. I tried to remember my mother's face. But he faded. I panicked. What's happening to me? Jacob grabbed my hand. Listen, you have to understand one thing. What? This place is changing you, but your real fight is not outside. It's inside. I looked at him in surprise. The door shook violently. A voice came from outside. I'm coming in, Noah. I backed away. Another memory disappeared from my head. Now I couldn't even remember the name of my college. Jacob shouted. If he comes in, you're finished. I started to tremble. So what do? Jacob threw an old key at me. This will take you to the edge of the forest. And you? I asked. He didn't smile. I'm already lost. I'm just helping. The knocking on the door had stopped now. Silence. A terrible silence. Then suddenly, fingers began to move on the window glass. Tick, tick, tick. And then he whispered, "You won't be able to remember, Noah." Another gap formed in my mind. I thought of my name. No, that was all I remembered. I screamed. No. Jacob shook me. Come on, now. We both ran for the door. But as soon as we opened the door, there he was. In me. My other form. He looked at me and smiled. You're almost finished now. My knees gave out. He stood in front of the door. My other form. And this time his smile was calmer than before. As if he knew there was no point in running away now. Another memory crashed into my head. I tried, who am I? But the answer was drowning in fog. Jacob immediately tried to close the door. But my other form reached out. And the door stopped. Just as if someone had caught it in midair. You're too late, Jacob, he said softly. There was a strange calm in his voice. Jacob gritted his teeth. You shouldn't have come here. My other form shook his head. I was always here. I'm just finished now. My head began to ache. Another memory disappeared. I couldn't remember my journey. The map, the forest, the town, everything blurred. I panicked. Jacob, who am I? Jacob looked at me. There was sadness in his eyes. You are Noah. Not yet. My other form laughed softly. Not yet. The wind outside picked up. The whispers from the forest began again, as if the whole town was breathing. Suddenly, footsteps began to sound in the distance. Many people. I looked at the window. The townspeople were standing outside. All of them, silent, without movement. Their eyes were on us. Jacob whispered, They have made a decision. What decision? I asked. But I didn't understand my own question. My other form stepped forward and said, Who is the real one? Another gap formed in my mind. I tried to remember my mother's face, but nothing came. Jacob shouted, Noah, remember yourself. But I couldn't remember. My other form came closer to me and said, You fought very well, but it's over now. He raised his hand to my head. Suddenly, one last memory flashed through my mind. I was holding a camera. I was making a video. I was saying, if you're watching this video, I might not be able to come back. My breath caught. I'm Noah. I said out loud. My other form smiled. Not now. And then he placed his hand on my forehead. Intense pain. It was as if everything inside me was coming out. I screamed, but the sound was getting weaker. In front of me, Jacob was screaming, but his voice was getting farther away. I was losing myself. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I was standing. Jacob was in front of me. He was looking at me, but there was fear in his eyes. He stopped. I looked at myself. I was fine. Absolutely fine. But something was empty inside. Outside, people slowly started to back away, as if they had heard the verdict. My other form was no longer there. Or maybe I was that one. Jacob said softly, They have accepted you. I raised my head. Who? He replied. The town. Nothing was clear in my mind. Just a feeling that I was from here. Always. Jacob stepped back slowly and said, If you remember anything, don't come to me. I looked at him, but I didn't feel anything. He turned and walked towards the forest. And I was standing in the middle of the town. People were slowly going back. Doors were opening. Life was coming back. But now everything was different. Because I was sure I am the one who was always here. The town wasn't quiet. It's just, I didn't feel quiet anymore. I was standing in the middle of the road. People were going back to their homes. Doors were opening. Life was starting again. But something inside me had ended. Or maybe something new had begun. I looked at my hands. Exactly. Absolutely normal. But whether these hands were mine or not, I wasn't sure. Jacob had gone into the forest, and I didn't even try to stop him, because I didn't care. As soon as this thought came to me, a strange feeling arose inside me, as if this thought wasn't mine. I slowly started walking towards the center of the town. Cafes, shops, church. Everything was the same as before, but now I was looking at them differently, like I was a part of it. Always. Suddenly, I felt something. The clocks on the walls. Still at 6:17. But it didn't seem strange anymore. It seemed right. I stopped in front of the church, and as I peered inside, I felt a jolt in my head. There were people sitting inside, but their faces looked somewhat familiar, like I knew them. Or maybe I was one of them. An old man stood up. He smiled at me. "You're back." I nodded, as if it were something normal. "Where did I go?" I asked. The old man didn't laugh. He just said, "Always outside." For a moment, a void formed inside me, and then memories began to come back. But they weren't mine. I saw people. They were entering the town, the map, the forest, the car. Fear. I began to understand. Ash Hollow was no place. It was a system, a living system, that split every visitor into two. The original and the copy. And then it let one of them survive. The old man came to me. "You made a good choice." I looked at him. What did I choose? He smiled. "Survival." My head ached, but this time it wasn't pain. It was confirmation. I was understanding everything. Jacob, he never came to save me. He only came to watch. I said softly. "And the one who went out?" The old man looked out the window. "They are always outside." I asked. "And my other form?" The old man was silent for a while. Then he said, "That was you." I nodded. It didn't seem strange anymore, because I understood. That town wasn't changing me. It was completing me. Night began to fall again. The sun slowly stopped. Exactly at 6:17. And then came that moment when I first felt that I didn't want to leave here, because outside, nothing was mine anymore. I was standing on the road, looking into the forest, where I once ran. And now, I didn't even remember why I had run away. The old man came to me. "You are part of the town now." I nodded slowly, and then I said something I had never thought of. "Good." The old man smiled, and the town seemed alive for the first time. But at the edge of the forest, an old map was swaying in the wind, and on it was written, Ash Hollow. But beneath it a new name was emerging, Noah Walker. And on the edge of the map was a sentence. "Every town takes its traveler, or becomes itself." The end. But in reality, there is never an end to Ash Hollow.